Hello, everyone, and welcome to. Wait a minute, I'm confused. Who am I? Where am
Oh
I?
my,
Why am I
yes.
here? This is Late Night Reds, Sunday evenings every week late, and I'm Chad Dotson, and I have hosted many a Reds show. I hosted Red Leg Nation Radio. I hosted the Riverfront, and more recently the Riverfront Reds Show because we changed its name because we have so many new shows, and one of those new shows is Late Night Reds. Our buddies Tim and Ben, not here this evening. They're doing some things we'll talk about later, but happy to be here. Really excited. Glad to see the chat's already going. Hello, Sydney, Pat, Dave. Welcome. I'm Chad Dawson, as I said, and happy to be here on Late Night Reds. Joining me is, I mentioned that we got some new podcasts here on the Riverfront Network. The newest one is Red Legs Roundtable with Seth Shaner. Seth, welcome. Happy to have you here on the Late Night Reds. Let's talk some Reds. You want to?
Absolutely. Although I'm a little worried, a few of I guess some of the older guys here at the Riverfront, and they're letting us stay up late. So that's a little. Hopefully, we can make it through the hour or so.
I hope so. I hope we can do this. No, exciting and happy to be here and fun to talk about the Reds again. And we will talk a little bit about what's happened this week and where the Reds are, where they're going. I'm still pretty upbeat, pretty excited about this club, and I think I have good reason to do that. But before we go, I want to talk a little bit about your show because, first of all, by the way, hello, Sydney. So tell me a little bit about Red Leg Roundtable because I know you got a show coming up here this week that, I don't know, every time you publish a new one of these episodes or you let us know who your next guest is going to be, I'm like, whoa, that sounds like somebody that'd be really fun to talk to. So
Yeah.
tell me who you got coming up this week, who you had in your last episode, who you have in your next one. Let's talk about that.
Well, the last episode came out the week of opening day. We had Pokey Reese, and I didn't mention you by name, but I mentioned a Riverfront coworker always talking about Pokey and his cap and the jaunty angle, and he had to laugh about that. He said it's just the way he put it on. No, that was a great interview, and someone, for me, having been a junior in college during the '99 season, I always look back at that season with such fondness. For 25 years since then, obviously, and it's been my goal to talk to as many of those guys as I could. But I also got to talk to, and it'll be coming out Tuesday, Kent Merker. He had multiple stints with the Reds, but he's from Dublin, Ohio, so he grew up here, and just a blast to talk to. And he's a sports agent. He's a baseball agent. But if he hadn't done that, I think he'd probably be in a booth somewhere helping call games because he's got that kind of personality. He did a little bit with Marty years ago, and he talked about that on the show that's going to come out on Tuesday. But he ended up going the other direction and representing athletes and things like that. But a really good chat we had with Kent.
Yeah, looking forward to listening to that, and keep up the great work, Seth. If you follow the Riverfront here on YouTube or in the audio feed, you're going to get the roundtable wherever you follow us. So be sure to tune in. Let's talk just a little bit, if we could, about the Cincinnati Reds. Maybe we'll talk about them probably for the rest of the show, although I'm known to digress into silly topics sometimes. But the Reds just finished a home series with the New York Metropolitans. Did not go the way any of us hoped it would go. Lost 2 out of 3. I guess let's do sort of a vibes check. Where are we right now on the Reds after losing their first series of the year in their third series? And are we still excited? How are we feeling right now, Seth? What are your thoughts?
Really excited about this team. I know, obviously, that wasn't the way we wanted the weekend to go. But I guess one troublesome thing for me is seeing the way they have performed against left-handed starters. Again, this year, it feels like for some reason the Reds are facing more of those than I can recall these last couple of years, it feels like. And it just doesn't seem like they're equipped right now. Encarnacion Strand and Candelario, the switch hitter, aren't really getting it done so far. So that makes it tougher against those left-handed starters.
Yeah, I agree. Look, we have some issues right now. Okay. The roster's not at full strength. But that being said, when I'm talking about a vibes check for this team, they're 5-4 right now. 5-4. And now that doesn't sound great. We want the team to be win 150 games, right? Then they still possibly 158-4 is not out of the realm of possibility at this point. but the Reds are only, quote unquote, only 5-4 right now. But let me ask you this, Seth. If the Reds went 5-4 every 9 games, the rest of the way, they'd finish up with 90 wins and 72 losses, 90 and 72. That's all it takes, 5-4. Would you be okay if the Reds won 90 games this year, Seth?
I would. I think that wins a division. So yes, absolutely.
Exactly. So that's my point here, which is that, yeah, you don't want to win or lose a series at home. And the Reds, I wish that the Mets are kind of a mess early this season. So I hate that the Reds lost a series at home. But on the other hand, they're 5-4. And yes, 5-4 has them only a half game out of last place in the NL Central right now, because the NL Central has been crazy through the first couple weeks of the season. But seriously, that puts the Reds on pace to win 90 games. So you can be unhappy with the Reds only being 5-4, but losing a series to the Mets not great. But I don't know. There's nothing about this team that we've seen so far that makes me upset. And a lot of people are upset. And the other part is just that given what the Reds have dealt with in terms of injuries, etc., I don't know. 5-4 seems okay to me right now. I'm as Joey Gaditza here in the comments said, still good. For me, the vibes are exactly the same as they were before the season. Matter of fact, maybe even better vibes for me. And then I'll let you take this wherever you want to go, Seth, because I expected the Reds to be good this year. Then all the injuries and the suspensions, etc., for them to get off to a good start, considering how many years over the last 10 years the Reds have been just disastrously bad to start the season. The fact they started okay is you take sort of a deep breath and be like, all right, we're okay here. We're fine. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And it means they're not going to be 3-22 or whatever they were a couple of years ago to start the season. So, 5-4, there were many years between 2013 and now that we would have taken 5-4 to start a season. And in fact, if last year's teams got off to a 5-4 start, I believe they would have made the playoffs. So,
yeah. So let's run through where we are in terms of the offense, the defense, and as a way to sort of do this vibe check. Then we're going to get into a topic that Seth suggested, which is some unpopular Reds takes, some unpopular ones. It's going to be fun later. A lot of people in the comments here. Pat Magooch.
Yeah, he's great.
Sidney
Steer
Price.
awesome.
Mentioning Spencer Steer. And we need to, I think that's where we start, right? Spencer Steer. Sidney says, NL MVP Spencer Steer. I love that we're getting out of our skis already on Spencer Steer. That's wonderful. Bring it on. But Spencer Steer, the most productive Reds player all season long last year. Now, McLean was great once McLean came up, but just consistent. And he's starting out the year. And Steer has just been, off the charts great. Well, here's the question. Is Spencer Steer going to win National League MVP, or will they just go ahead and induct him into the Baseball Hall of Fame at the end of the year? One of the two, I think.
Yeah, either one. He's just solid, and you need those guys. As exciting as we think Ellie De La Cruz can become, you need a Matt McLean when he was healthy last year. You need a Spencer Steer. You need those solid guys. And Steer just looks like he's grown the last 2 years, just more and more. I think somebody said professional hitter. What did he say today? Or yesterday, he doesn't have to carry the stereo equipment to the bus or the airplane anymore. So maybe that load off his back is what's really gotten him to take off and become, again, maybe not an MVP, but maybe an all-star and maybe just a solid big league hitter for this Reds team for the next 4 or 5 years at least.
Wait, I'm confused. You just said not an MVP. What do you mean by that? Are you saying that Spencer Steer is possibly not going to win the Most Valuable Player award? I'm confused.
Well, he was so solid last year and he didn't win the Rookie of the Year, so
he's hitting 406.
And after he went 0 for 3 today too, he's still hitting 406.
3 homers, 12 ribeye steaks. I mean, we said we were going to talk about some unpopular Reds takes, and I think you just dropped the first one. Spencer Steer is not going to win the MVP.
Oh no,
this is what Seth Sanders telling us today.
Yeah.
No.
Yes, thank you, Sydney. Have you seen Mookie Betts' stat line?
Who? I've never heard of Mookie Betts. What are you talking about? So, but anyway, obviously I'm being hyperbolic here. But what do you think about this take from Scott here? If you're watching on the YouTubes, it's amazing to me how underrated the NL Central is in everyone else's eyes. The NL Central is the only division where every team's above 500. Keep underestimating us, haters. So it's an interesting topic of discussion because in this whole show, we're not going to be like Tim and Ben. We're going to just go where we want to go. So I'm an Atlantic Coast Conference basketball fan, and everyone said, "Oh, the ACC is awful in basketball this year." Then I think they had 6 teams make the Final Four. 6 ACC teams made the Final Four. I'm pretty sure that's the way that worked. And so before this, after all season long, the Reds or the college basketball reporters saying ACC's down. So NL Central, everyone's saying that it's down this year, and 84 wins could win the division. 88 wins could win the division. Matter of fact, I was pretty sure coming into the season, still relatively sure that 88 wins would win the National League Central. But it's true so far. Last place is the St. Louis Cardinals, which I like saying the Cardinals are in last place, but at 5-5. So is the NL Central way better than everyone, or are we just talking about small sample size? It's only been 9 or 10 games and a good start. Relatively good start for all the teams. What do you think?
Yeah, remember last year the Pirates were in first place for about 3 or 4 weeks to start the season. So, and I know O'Neal Cruz got hurt last year, and that might have made a difference. But long season, 162 games. I still think like I said, I think 90 wins it at least, but 88 could win the division. I still am not ready to go anywhere near all these teams are going to be 500 above and challenging for all the wild card spots. That doesn't seem possible to me with the lack of depth I see on some of the teams.
Well, selfishly for me, I hope Scott's wrong. Because I don't want the NL Central to be the best division of baseball because that makes it less likely the Reds are going to win it. I want it to be the worst division in baseball. That way the Reds can get to their 88 wins or whatever and win the thing.
This isn't the SEC where everybody cheers for all the good teams, even though their team's out of it. This is not. Right. This isn't, I'm not rooting for the Brewers when they're playing somebody else unless it affects the Reds' ability to make a playoff run.
Exactly. So we are live, as everyone knows. We're on the Twitters, on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on I don't know, wherever else you get live podcasts. We're probably there. And so I have the ability here in the Tim Daniel role to show some comments on the screen, and I'll show some comments occasionally.
Oh no.
Here's a comment from Joey Gadiza, for example, if you're watching. Good start indeed. Big 4-game show down against the Crew this early. Let's go. And I do want to talk about the upcoming series against the Milwaukee Brewers soon, but I just want to note here that Pat Magooch had an intemperate comment that I will not stand for, and I'm not going to show it. I'm not going to show it on the screen here. So, Pat, you need to watch what you say when I'm here. Okay, you say whatever you want when Tim Daniel and Ben are here, but not when I'm here. So before we get to the upcoming Brewers series, something else happened today that I really think we need to touch on. And I'm telling you, I've tried to get less emotionally involved in the Reds over the last, 30 years, I guess. I'm 32 years old. So since I was 2, the Reds have been largely bad. But I try not to let the wins and losses and everything affect me emotionally. Now, listen, when I was 15 years old or 12 years old and the Reds lost, I was beat up. But in recent years, I'm like, come on, you're an adult. Don't do this. Well, something happened today that really, really kind of got at me. Really kind of, it was heartbreaking. And that's that TJ Antone. TJ Antone, who when he's been on the mound has largely been outstanding. Sydney, don't question what I say about my age, Sydney. How dare you? How dare you?
He said 6 ACC teams made the Final Four, so Sydney, we can forgive him if his math's a little off.
Wait, what? And then, so anyway, TJ Antone has been really good. most of the time that he's been on the mound. But that guy just keeps suffering injuries. Today, one pitch and had to come off the mound. Nobody knows what's happening because David Bell won't tell us anything even closely resembling the truth. Which, whatever, it is what it is. But really concerned about TJ Antone, another injury. Any thoughts just quickly before we move on to the Brewers?
I mean, honestly, I was so amazed that he came back after. Remember, he made the comeback at the end of last year, and he had a few good appearances, and then he comes back and he did a lot like what he did today. He grabbed at it, and it seemed like, oh no, here we go again, and somehow he was okay enough to build it back up and come to spring training ready to go. But you're right. A guy that got himself to the point where he was after. Remember, he didn't even throw as hard when he was younger. He really worked hard to get that velocity up and became pretty. Pitching Ninja loves TJ Antone right on Twitter. Well, you're right. It's one of those things that makes you real sad. You were mentioning when you were 12 or 13, you let every loss bother you. My son's last night, my 8-year-old came over and sat down next to my 13-year-old. And he says, I'm going to sit next to Joey. That's my oldest son's name. Don't know who we named him after. He said, I'm going to sit down next to Joey. And they were all happy and everything. And then that was Friday night. And then the Reds lost. And next thing you know, they're up screaming at each other, brushing their teeth. And I'm like, Joey, there's 162 of these things. And he was so upset with his brother over nothing because he was just mad at the Reds.
I get it, buddy. I get it. We've all been there, right? So, sending out some good vibes to TJ Antone. You know, just a tough break, and maybe it'll be nothing. Maybe he just felt a twinge, and it'll be nothing. But I'm concerned about that. Question from Scott here. Are we going to get Chad uncensored? I know Thursdays are safe for work, but what is late night Reds Chad like? Oh, we'll just stick around and see. Who knows? Who knows? What would Chad uncensored be like?
Oh boy, Tony Bennett posters being unveiled. I don't know.
Oh my goodness, Tony Bennett. Thank you, the greatest coach in the history of college basketball. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what uncensored is, but stick around. Who knows? It depends on how much Seth provokes me here. So, so the Reds are 5-4. They won each of the first two series, lost the third series against the Mets, and now it's the Milwaukee Brewers. Seth, what are your thoughts about the upcoming series? It's a 4-game set against the Brewers. How do we feel about this? You know, the Brewers are the Brewers, but these games are obviously in Cincinnati, 4 games. Opportunity for the Reds to really early in the season. Basically, what I'm asking is, are these 4 all must-win games?
Oh, yes. They absolutely are. No, I mean, I sat there at opening day and saw what Corbin Burns did for Baltimore, and I was like, oh, I'm glad we don't have to bat against him in a week or so. That's the first thing, I think. I mean, they are pretty stripped down. They made some signings, some Pirates-esque signings of the last 10 or so years or maybe even some Reds-esque signings, I guess, at times of guys that are kind of either on the downside or not really doing as well. And I just don't see them being the contender that they've been the last few years. I could be wrong, but they don't have their manager and they don't have Corbin Burns, and I'll take the Reds' chances these next 4 games.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is the Reds are probably going to sweep.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. Probably the Reds will sweep these 4 games. They'll be then, if my math is correct, after these 4 games, they will be 9-4. And I don't know what that's on pace to, but that's on pace to win more than 90 games. So I don't know. You know, who knows? Who knows? But now, if the Reds can pull off 3 out of 4 here, that's pretty good. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for 3 out of 4, and I don't know. We'll see. You know, it's just so early that I want to get excited. I want to be like, oh my gosh, the Reds. You know, they have to win these games, but no, they don't. But got Graham Ashcraft going on Monday night, right? Monday, or is it? Yeah, Monday night. Graham Ashcraft. And what are your thoughts about Ashcraft so far?
Well, I usually let your brother speak for Ashcraft, but
I know, right? Oh, Nate loves him some Graham Ashcraft.
You know, he gave up 2 solo shots to Bryce Harper, and honestly, that didn't bother me that much because you know what didn't happen before those? He didn't walk somebody to make them 2 or 3 run shots. So he's got a 3.0 ERA after one start, and I thought he threw well. I thought he really did a good job. I'm looking this up now. The Reds are going to face a left-handed starter again, a man named Aaron Ashby. He's the nephew of Andy Ashby. You might remember him from the 80s.
No, I wasn't around back then, but I'm sure you can tell me all
right.
about him.
He pitched for Milwaukee in 21 and 22, but he hasn't pitched in the big league since. So I'm not sure. I don't have much info about him, but he is a left-handed starter. So,
yeah, well, a left-handed starter. That what do you think? yeah, exactly. Well, more about that in a moment, perhaps. Let's do this. Because I want to talk about some specific Reds players and their performance so far, and especially I want to talk about this pitching, because this pitching is really interesting to me. If the Reds pitching is what, again, I'm getting out over my skis here, but I'm pretty excited about what I've seen out of Red starters so far. And if they can be what we've seen, then I think we're in really good shape. But let's go ahead into the topic of the day. Okay. Which is unpopular Reds takes. Some unpopular takes. Now, this was your idea. Why don't you tell me what you were thinking when you suggested unpopular takes as a topic of conversation?
Honestly, I've had this on my mind for a while, and a lot of what I'm about to say here in the next few minutes are more things I've been thinking about even since I joined the Riverfront here earlier in the winter. I certainly think we can talk about some of the current situations and things like that, but I have a few thoughts, and I want the commenters to give their own unpopular takes, and I'm not going to be upset as long as you're not personal or something if you don't agree at all with what I say, because I think a few of these, I know my third one is, I've got 3, and I know my third one is really going to tick off Chad. So,
oh boy, he's teasing that one already.
I'm all right with some disagreements because, opinions are opinions, and that's fine. But I have a few, and well, before we get into that though, the one current one I was thinking about, Pat Magooch said, is Frankie Money a thing now? Frankie Moontoss, however Nate's saying it this week, he is really, really good. The only thing I'm going to look out for, and it's not a negative, remember he came back and had that one appearance last September with the Yankees, and then he was a free agent, and he came to camp ready to pitch right away. So honestly, he's probably 6 or more weeks ahead of all the other pitchers in the big leagues at this point as far as how ready he was back in February. So I just want to watch that all season and make sure, I'm not worried about him holding up. It's just more of, can somebody reasonably be all out from February until October? And so,
yes, he can.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, there you go.
That's
you answered my question. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
let me hear your first unpopular take. Although
right,
I really want to get to this one that's going to make me upset. And
yeah, we got to get to that one. Okay.
Yeah,
the first one
before
is
you do it. Before you do it, though, hold on. I do want to say this. Any of you in the comments, I don't care if you say things that make me upset. I enjoy it. So you can say whatever you want about me. It's not going to hurt my feelings. All right, Seth, what's your number one unpopular Reds take of the moment?
I have to remember Chad twists what co-hosts say, their words. Okay, I have to remember that. All right. So the first one I have has been even back since early in the winter, and I didn't tweet. I had my thumbs ready to tweet this multiple times, and I admit I chickened out. But I'm going to bring it to all of you right now, and that is the Reds should sign Trevor Bauer. Okay.
That is an extremely unpopular take right now.
Trevor Bauer's situation is a bit icky. I'm willing to admit.
That's one way to put it.
I understand that. But remember 2020 when we couldn't go to games. Remember, Trevor Bauer pitched for your Cincinnati Reds. He had a vlog. That vlog is the only thing that kept me connected to my Cincinnati Reds. And I remember fondly that season. And oh, wait, he also won the franchise's only Cy Young Award. Yes, Sydney, it would be the league minimum. He's already said that that's what he would sign for. He got paid $45 million to sit around by the Dodgers for a couple years. So, no, that's what but again, I don't know. I understand it's not popular. No major league team has shown interest, but that's the first one.
Well, that is the very definition of an unpopular take these days. And I'm not gonna sign on to that one necessarily
All right.
at this point, but I like it. You're pushing the envelope.
Okay. Envelope.
There you go. How about there's, I guess I would say there's a reason why no team has signed him.
Yeah, I understand.
I don't have all the information, but I do like the idea of the Reds having depth. I'm just not sure that's the depth. So anyway, whatever. Here's a take from the comment section. Unpopular maybe, says Joey Gaditza. Seth, you're sort of newer around these parts, but I think you know this. Joey Gaditza is from the land up north, Canada.
Yeah, Canadian.
Canada. Yeah. Unpopular maybe, but David Bell should just plug Jake Fraley in, even against lefties. I just as soon see him over Stu or Bubba. So Stuart Fairchild or Bubba Smith. I don't know. There's a guy named Bubba on the Reds now.
I've always liked Bubba.
Surely not. I know, but Bubba Thompson. So anyway, that's actually probably not. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of people that love him, Stu Fairchild. That I was thinking about an unpopular take being saying something derogatory about Stuart Fairchild. I'm not going to do it because his mom is a regular listener to the show, but she doesn't listen to the Riverfront or Red Leg Roundtable, but she does listen to Late Night Reds.
She already turned us off, Chad.
Yeah, that's true. She's waiting to hear Tim. She loves Stu Fairchild's mom loves Tim. I don't know why that is. Don't ask me.
I think it's the beard.
Well, maybe. I mean, the rest of us only watch Late Night Reds for Ben, but she likes Tim for some reason.
Isn't Ben awesome?
Yeah, Ben's the best. So anyway, maybe over Stuart Fairchild, Stu or Bubba, as Joey puts it. But Fraley does. I think that Jake Fraley looks as good as he looks because he is only hitting against hitters that has a good chance of success. I think David Bell manages them correctly. But maybe if you're talking about those guys, maybe. I'm not a big fan of Jake Fraley against as an everyday player. I think he's a platoon guy. All right, here's my unpopular take. You ready to hear it?
I am. Let's go.
And my concept of what an unpopular take is I may be wrong. I don't know. I can't tell because I hear so many crazy things on both sides of every Twitter debate. But here's this. Ellie De La Cruz will win no fewer than 3 Gold Glove awards at shortstop.
Wow.
What do you think? Am I wrong? Tell me I'm wrong.
Now look, everyone who points out how young he is, 22 years old, and how little time he's had at the position, especially at the big league level, is correct. Unfortunately, you said at shortstop, correct?
At shortstop specifically.
So not just anywhere on the field. He's not going to be Eric Davis out in center field. Okay. Yeah, it is a very small sample size so far, but boy, he's going to have to clean up a lot.
Is he though?
I think so.
Yes, he is. You're right. You're right. He is. But let me just mention some stats from another shortstop in Reds history. This shortstop that I'm going to mention was 1 year older during his first full season in Cincinnati. Okay, he was 23 years old, older than Ellie De La Cruz. 19 errors in his first, and I say full season, but it was 119 games. So 19 errors over 119 games at shortstop. The following season, at age 24, again, Ellie is 22. The following season, at age 24, 29 errors in a full season at shortstop. Okay, terrible. This is not good. And we can dive into the more, detailed defensive metrics that'll show the same thing. This guy was a horrible defensive shortstop, and he never, at his best, had the range that Ellie De La Cruz has. Well, that shortstop, of course, is Barry Larkin, who went on to be a Hall of Famer, a Gold Glover. Those of you who are upset about Ellie's defense, it's fine. I get it. I'm not enjoying the mistakes that we've seen so far this season. I don't love it. But those of you that are giving up on Ellie as a shortstop already, and there are people that are doing this, which is insane to me, check yourself here. Get out of town. He's better. He's no worse than Barry Larkin was at that age. Larkin learn to play. If they had every game televised and social media back in Barry Larkin's time, they would have run him out of town. And instead, he becomes an all-time legend. So that's my, which I think is an unpopular take, which is that he's going to win a Gold Glove.
Yeah,
Back off.
Well, you said 3, but I think you hit the nail on the head, though, on the unpopular take, because you've done what social media manages to do and drive me crazy all the time. And that's go from one extreme, that he's kicked the ball around a little bit. And honestly, if you watch the plays he hasn't made, some of it's because his athletic ability, he's probably so used to doing it in a less, fundamentally sound way. And it's catching up to him a little bit because the game's just a little more faster moving at the big league level. But you've gone from that to 3 Gold Gloves. Like, those are very, very big extremes, Chad. So I think you've hit the social media, like somebody's trained you. Did you go to, I know you're well versed in education. Did you go to a little extra online class or something like that on social media management? Because you've hit the nail on the head, and that's one of my problems with the old Twitter/X or whatever lately. It's that we can jump to such big conclusions back and forth. It can't be.
You said you wanted an unpopular take. If I'd have said, well, Ellie De La Cruz is probably going to be okay at shortstop in the long run, that's not an unpopular take.
Well, as Reds fans, it would be a very popular take if you tell me Ellie De La Cruz is going to win 3 Gold Gloves. That'd be fine.
Here's a take from the chat before you get into your next one from Pat Magooch. Here's a take. Tyler Stevenson isn't that good. I don't know if that's an unpopular take at this point.
I think that's pretty normal around these here parts.
Yeah, I mean, I still like him. I still think he's okay. I don't have any problems. But he's also 27 years old, and it's time to, so that's. I don't want to talk about Tyler Stevens because I'm trying to have fun with this team. Seth, what's your second unpopular take?
All right. Now, the first one had a little ickiness. This one's going to have
one way to put it.
This one's going to have some ickiness as well.
Oh, gosh.
But I think it's a function of age. And we're going to get rid of this idea that you're 32. You're older than I am. I graduated high school in 1997. My first full year actually watching the Reds was 1987. So I don't have memory really paying attention to Pete Rose, the player. Okay.
Oh boy, you are just you're doubling it down here.
But listen. Growing up, even before I cared about Reds baseball, when I was too young to care that much about Reds baseball, I knew who he was. My grandfather loved the Big Red Machine, thought he was a great player. All right, so here's my hot take. Pete Rose, the baseball player, is worthy of mention and admiration, despite how schwarmy he seems, how icky he seems as a person. Pete Rose, the baseball player, can be mentioned and talked about, and we should remember him for what he did on the baseball field and enjoy that. And I feel like, and I hate to sound like I'm the old man yelling at cloud here, I feel like a lot of the younger folks, even than me, who don't have even the loose connection that I do to his playing career, I feel like they just find it easier to dismiss because they see the icky things.
Icky. Well, you're doubling down into the icky today.
Well, they both are. I'm sorry. I understand. Yeah. They both have their problems, Trevor Bauer and Pete Rose. I'm not making an argument that they don't, but I'm saying we can recognize the greatness on the field without having to dwell on that other stuff.
So here's what I'll say about that, which is that is both a popular and an unpopular take.
Okay.
Because I think that on Twitter, especially amongst the people that I follow and that I trust and that I like for their Reds takes, that's extremely unpopular. Right?
Sorry, Sydney.
Because Pete is oh man, Sydney, man, how long till Tim and Ben come back? Seth is running everybody away with his icky takes. I would say that is absolutely an unpopular take for good reason. For a good reason. The flip side, though, is the way you framed that, which is that, celebrate him for what he did on the field. I think that when you get away from Twitter is an extremely popular take. I think the vast majority actual Reds fans who aren't involved in the online conversation. It's easier to ignore the icky, quote unquote, side of Pete if you're not engaged in the online stuff. So I think that has the benefit of being both a popular and an unpopular take. So I here's what happened a few weeks ago. A good friend said, "Hey, I got us tickets to see Pete Rose. He's doing like a tour." And this is a really good friend and one who I did not want to. It's a really good friend, and so I said, "I'll go with you to this." I didn't have to pay for it, I guess, and it's a friend who's been very good to me. So we went and listened to Pete Rose talk about baseball for like 90 minutes. And it was wild. He said some hilarious things. He said some things that you really can't say in the year 2024. He did an imitation of Tony Perez, the way Tony Perez talks. It was just I'm gonna write about it at some point, but my goodness. Now, my son went with me because they bought tickets for me and my son to come. And my son, who's a freshman in college at this point, said, "Boy, that guy, he's how'd he put it? Because he knew that Pete Rose was, the hits and all-time Reds legend, and he's been to the Great American Ballpark 1,000 times, seen the statue, etc. Number retired, but he's like, man, that guy really thinks a lot of himself, doesn't he? Or he's really impressed with himself, or something."
Yes.
So it was. Go ahead.
Well, and again, another unpopular guy, but did you ever read that article? I think it was on ESPN years ago about how somebody gave Alex Rodriguez Pete Rose's number, and they would text each other, and he would tell him about his hitting, and A-Rod would go on these incredible tears for 2 or 3 weeks after Pete gave him advice. I just found that fascinating, like the baseball only side. And honestly, I understand these last few years we've learned some even worse things about Pete. So
he's the worst.
No, yeah, that side of it I'm not. But I remember I was in college when the Sports Century series came out from ESPN, at the turn of the century, when they honored all the best athletes of the 20th century. And you watch all these episodes, and it's 100% about these guys and their playing career. And then you watch the Pete Rose episode, and it's 10 minutes about baseball, and it's the rest of it about gambling at the time. And as a guy who never grew up watching Pete play, but always hearing about it, I just always have wanted more baseball Pete Rose talk. And I think that's where this all stems from.
Well, I guess the other part of this, gosh, Tim's never going to let us come back. We're talking about Trevor Bauer and Pete Rose. But you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's just it's hard to, in this day and age, it's hard to separate the off the field,
sure, absolutely,
from the on field. If you're looking just at the on field, I think the other here's my unpopular take that I'm gonna zag a little bit on you here. I didn't have this, but here's an unpopular take that if you just look at Pete Rose's on the field production, he wasn't nearly as good as what all the Pete Rose lovers think he was. Yeah, I mean, he was good. Right. He was good, but he wasn't as good as he wasn't, But anyway, whatever. That's not really what I wanted to say. Do we have another unpopular take in the comments here? I thought I saw one. Scott, unpopular take. Worried that Ellie will revert to be no better at baseball than Billy Hamilton or Aristides Aquino. Woo! No, I don't see that. I don't think there's any chance of that because neither Billy and I am an unapologetic lover of Billy Hamilton, as I've said many times on this podcast network. Neither of those guys ever performed anywhere close to what Ellie's performed in his big league career. Joey Gaditza, another hot take. Noelvi helps the Reds reach October baseball, but then sadly has to watch from the sidelines. I'll take it. Bring it on. That's Noelvi Marte, who had to use some performance-enhancing drugs. Let's see. We got anything else here? Here's an unpopular take from Sydney. Thank you, Chad. Someone said something nice about me.
Yeah,
that's unpopular.
And I apologize, Sydney. My takes.
Yeah, but that was the idea. That's what this topic was, right? We wanted to get into some unpopular takes, and I appreciate that. So
in our country right now, and we don't need to go any politics or even other things. But
No, we don't.
But in our country right now, because of Twitter and because of television and things like that, like it's hard. Like I bet you Sydney and I could sit down and talk about Pete Rose, and I would agree with Sydney about 99% of what has to be said. But at the end of the day, there's not just one side and another side. A lot of times it melds into two. It comes together in some way. And people that rationally sit down and speak with each other on any topic, I think, almost any topic, can get along well. You go out and see your neighbors. That's what the best thing we can do in this climate right now is
not true. Not true. Unpopular take. I
you
hate
want to
everyone.
You want to live on live on the internet only. Okay.
No, I hate everyone that disagrees with me about anything.
All right. Well, see. Okay.
Come on, Seth. Just playing with you. Here's an unpopular take from Sydney. Edwin Arroyo will be better than Noelvi Marte. Interesting. Now that is a really interesting take, but mostly from my perspective, because we haven't seen a lot of Edwin Arroyo,
right.
And we've seen enough of Noelvi to know that, well, he's kind of special. What are the chances of that, Seth? Any thoughts?
Well, it's almost like one of the other arguments earlier. If that is the case, that's awesome. I mean, because what we saw out of Noelvi so far, like you said, is pretty impressive. So if Edwin Arroyo actually is better, how much better are your Cincinnati Reds then?
Yeah, no, that's a popular take, which is that they're both going to be great.
Yeah.
Right? That's very popular. Arroyo, unfortunately, season-ending shoulder surgery, and so I don't really know what he's going to be. What I was really hoping was that Arroyo would be incredible up until July, and then the Reds would trade him for somebody that would help the big league team. That's what I was hoping, because I love to trade all of the prospects. All right, my second unpopular take. My second unpopular take is that I'm going to go back to the well with Elly De La Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
Elly De La Cruz should bunt more often. This has been the topic of conversation amongst many on online these days. Elly De La Cruz is bunting some. Now tell me how dumb I am. Well, not just in general, just about this particular take. I know you have lots of thoughts about how dumb I am, but Elly De La Cruz bunting. Do you have any thoughts about it?
I'm scrolling through. Here it is. I don't know. Maybe you didn't see my tweet on March 30th, 2024. Hear me out. Elly becomes the best bunter this side of Brett Butler from the right side of the plate and smashes homers like Junior from the left.
Well, so see, this is another example of why I should follow you on Twitter. No, I follow at Shaner Bob.
It took me years to get you to follow me, Chad.
Is that true? I'm sorry. I apologize. The reason I say that, and again, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic again. I just don't have a problem with him bunting. I don't have a problem with it at all. Number one, if he can bunt and get on base, that's a good thing. Now, do I ever want Elly De La Cruz bunting with men on base to try to advance the runner into scoring position? No. I mean, maybe if it's the bottom of the ninth and you're trying to get a runner over to second or something. I mean, there are situations where a sacrifice bunt makes sense. Very few situations, but there are situations where it makes sense. But in general, if it can help him get on base, number one, that's a good thing. We want Elly De La Cruz on base. Number two, if it causes the defense to be a little, on edge because of the threat of his bunts, I think that's great. The problem is this, and I will concede this, is that I don't have any evidence whatsoever that Elly De La Cruz actually can bunt.
Mm-hmm.
And bunting against big league hitters is really, really hard. For me, bunting against little league pitchers, I said bunting, major league pitchers, bunting against little league pitchers. All right. This has been Late Night Reds.
Unleashed.
Oh my gosh, I'm losing it already. So that's my problem. I don't know that he can do it, but if he can do it, it's another weapon in his arsenal, and I'm okay with it.
Well, his entire minor league career, which again wasn't that long, his entire minor league career was probably not spent bunting. So you get back into that old Well, he spent his whole minor league career batting third, and now he's batting seventh, and you're asking him to bunt. It's tough to do, as you said. And I don't know, did you ever get your finger hit by a pitch in the league when you tried to bunt? That was always
That's bold of you to presume that I was ever actually in a game. I was on the bench, man. I was in the dugout.
Okay.
Yeah. What if he was to get hurt?
Oh,
Well,
no.
whatever. You get hurt.
Oh, no, Chad, don't go there.
Oh, here we go. So I don't know. If he can bunt, I think it's an okay thing. Here's Pat Magooch with the unpopular take of all unpopular takes. If you're not watching right now on one of the video channels, unpopular take from Pat Magooch. I miss Jim Riggleman. What in the what?
I met him in the hotel, the Players Hotel, the team hotel in Milwaukee one year. I was up there. My college roommate and I take baseball trips, and we wandered into the hotel, and it's just gothic. It's amazing. They say it's haunted. But Jim Riggleman was sitting there. They have like an indoor, it looks like almost like Italy, where it was like a little coffee shop and all this, but it's all indoors because it's Milwaukee and it's always cold, right? But we sat down, and here he came and sat down and chatted with us for a while. Just pleasant fella, very pleasant.
Wow.
Fella.
Well, I didn't, on my late night Reds bingo card tonight, I didn't have praise for Jim Riggleman being on there, but he's a nice guy evidently, so that's good. Yeah.
I see Joey Goditza's post here. A hopeful take: Lodolo returns and stays healthy. He and Frankie and the Reds go to October Bowl. Joey, if you would have talked with us before the show, we could go back in time maybe and get rid of the unpopular takes and just do all hopeful takes. I think maybe folks would be happier with us right now, Chad. But
the chances anyone's ever going to be happy with you and I, Seth, come on, you have to learn. You got to learn. That's a hazard of this business, is that people are not going to be happy with us ever. So City does have a popular take here.
There you go.
I miss Luis Alberto Bonilla and Jumbo Diaz. Thank you, Sydney. The first mention of Luis Alberto here on Late Night Reds. By the way, that do you remember the name of that hotel in Milwaukee by any chance?
Oh, I'm blanking on it now. I'm sorry.
So, but you think it was haunted by the ghost of Gorman Thomas?
Yes, although I don't know, he played home games there, so I doubt he hung out at the hotel much. But Gorman, that is. But maybe he goes and haunts the future opponents. I guess I don't know.
I tried to make a dumb joke. And, you called me on it.
Have you ever been on Sporkle.com?
I have. Yes.
I go on there, and I always, and again, I have baseball. Like, there's so much in my mind. I can never get that Harvey's Wallbangers team. I don't know any of the names except for Gorman Thomas. That's the
Gorman Thomas.
Yount, obviously, but
Pete Vukovich. What about Pete Vukovich?
I know Pete from Major League.
There you go. The Immaculate Grid. If y'all play the Immaculate Grid, if you don't, you should. So I only play it because my another brother, who's closer in age to me than Nate is, we play it just about every day. We don't every day, but our goal is just to get the most obscure 1980s player as often as possible. So he'll come up with a Rafael Ramirez sometimes, and then I'll come up with Otis Nixon, and I throw in Gary Reedus as often as I can. So that's the way to play. Oh, Terry McGriff. Got to get a little Terry McGriff in there. Dan Billardello. So anyway, that's we still have, we're running out of time. We've gone longer than I had expected to go tonight. Let's hear it. You had an unpopular take that was going to make me upset, and I am dying to hear this.
I gave you two that I didn't deem would upset Chad. Here it is. I like the drop shadow. I do. I'm sorry. I think it's an age thing. I came through my formative years when the Reds wore white or off-white pinstripe hats. Look it up. They were hideous. And then they switched the uniforms, and the team's good. All right? The team is good. And they put a drop shadow under the C, and we should never look back. It was awesome. I love the drop shadow. And that's the one thing, Chad, and you're one of them. See, Trent's another one. There's folks in this business, in this Reds fandom business, that can get an opinion swayed a certain way. And you, my friend, along with C. Trent, going back to like 2007, have successfully turned people like Sydney against the drop shadow. And you've done it. And I can't respect you for it because I love the drop shadow on the sea. Are you muted?
I muted myself somehow. I was afraid I was going to use the loudest profanity you've ever heard. And so I accidentally muted myself. Oh my goodness. Seth claims that this is definitely an unpopular take. He likes the drop shadow on the Reds caps. Oh my goodness. And if you don't know what I mean, go look at a picture of any Reds player for the last 10, 15 years. And if you look at the C on their cap, and there's a little black drop shadow below. And if you're looking on video, Seth,
it's white because of the black, but yeah.
That's right. That's the reverse. But the drop shadow is horrendous. Go back and look at the 70s and 80s Reds pictures. And that beautiful red cap with a red bill, first of all.
Yeah, well,
and just a white C. And it's the best. The drop shadow is awful. The Reds need to get rid of it. Seth, you're right. I didn't think you could top your previous unpopular takes, but buddy, you just did it. That's awful.
This is good radio, TV, internet, whatever it is. We shouldn't always agree.
Absolutely.
That's what I learned in journalism, broadcast journalism, Ohio State. That's what I learned. Well, you don't always want to agree. It'd be a boring show.
Well, we should always agree that I'm correct about everything. That's what we should agree about. All right. One last comment here, then we'll get out of here because I think this is a good topic of conversation. I do want to briefly mention some of the pitching. Mm-hmm. And because I kind of yelled at somebody on Twitter for saying this. So I'm going to, Scott, repost it because I think it's a good take for discussion. Hunter Green will be better as a reliever than as a starter. Let me just say this. Maybe there's a chance of that. If you look at just straight numbers, a lot of great starters, if you put them in the pen and let them throw max velocity for one inning, their numbers are going to look pretty good. He will be less valuable to the Reds by far as a reliever than as a starter. I can't abide. And some of this is because I went through the era where they had a chance to use Aroldis Chapman as a starter and they didn't. And he was a great reliever, incredible reliever, 4-time All-Star for the Reds.
Yeah.
And then went and don't go look up his recent social media viral video because now I just threw it in my mouth a little bit. But he's not going to be as valuable to the Reds as a reliever than he would be as a starter. So that's all I'll say about that. Seth, any comments about that?
No, you're absolutely right. And I can go back and look at 2011, 12, 13, all those years and see at one point the ship had sailed, but Aroldis Chapman could have been Randy Johnson. And he wasn't, and he was great for what the Reds had at the time, especially you think of those 2012 and 2013 rotations. They didn't need Chapman to be a starter. But this Reds team needs Hunter Green in the starting rotation. And I'm not going to give up on him yet to be at least all-star caliber and very good as a starter.
All right, last thing I want to talk before we get out of here is this starting rotation. Because I meant to discuss it earlier, and I just don't want to get out of here without talking about it because this is the single area where I am most excited about the 2024 Reds. And it could all go south any day now. But when you look at this early in the season, and you look at how Frankie Montas, Mountain Toss, Montañas, Hunter Green, Graham Ashcraft, and Andrew Abbott have performed so far. And again, we're talking early season. They barely, pitched. But when you look at how those guys have pitched, and then you have Nick Lodolo to add to that group, I don't think this is – it's maybe an unpopular take. I don't think it's a hot take. I think that if those guys – they don't have to be great even. If those guys can remain relatively healthy, knock on wood, and I don't want to do it again to you, Hunter, but if they can remain relatively healthy, that's the best rotation in the NL Central. And, when you consider that the Reds missed the playoff last year because they were starting, Derek Law in September, it makes you think that, again, and I don't want to ever presume health, because with pitchers, that's a difficult thing to stay healthy. But if they can stay relatively healthy, this rotation has a chance to be the best in the division. And I think that gives them a big leg up over where they were last year. And I don't know, that's what makes me as excited as anything I've seen so far, is that they've started out well. Thoughts about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we've got some good performances in AAA already. And beyond even Nick Lodolo, who didn't have the best day today, but he was really good his first time out. They're deeper this year than they were at any time last year. You're absolutely right. And that doesn't mean that all 5 guys are 1, 2, or 3 starters at any given time this year. It just means that the guy you're running out there is competent at minimum. And Brett Kennedy, I see you, Sydney. Yeah, that wasn't always the case last year.
It was not. So terribly exciting. And so anyway, that's a good place, I think, to put a pin in it. Maybe.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very bad storm cloud over the TJ Antone situation. But how about Brent Suter today? Came in and 3 innings pitched, no runs. I mean, it's not just the starting pitching. It's that bullpen. Pagan's giving them some good innings. Diaz seems to have it turned around a little bit. So, yeah.
Well, I'm not very high on Pagan, but yes, I think you're right, especially Suter. I think Diaz is going to be fine. Buck Farmer, he's Buck Farmer, but the bullpen should be, I don't know, again, but the bullpen should be better than last year. And you're right, that's a big deal. And Suter's my favorite Red at this point. That guy, no one wants to be a Red more than him, except for maybe you and I, Seth, right?
Yes.
And so I love a guy that wants to be here and has come in, and he had one rough outing, but struck out the side on opening day, and huge outing today and ultimately they didn't win, but huge outing that really helped them. I agree, absolutely. So anything else you want to add before we finish?
Well, hey, I think you've gotten them before. I'm repping Homage, a Columbus, Ohio company. I will shamelessly say, anytime I get the chance, if you want to send a swag bag or box my way, Homage, please do. I think they hooked you up before. I've given way too much money to them over the years. I've got something coming back to me at some point, I think, and I'll wear any of this stuff. Come on, Homage. Thank you.
I don't think Homage provided what I'm wearing tonight, but
no, they didn't. They do make NBA stuff. They make NBA.
Go Sixers.
You got to check it out. NBA stuff on their website's pretty sweet. The old,
do they have Sixers.
Yeah,
gear?
Absolutely. They have these old. Remember the old Skybox cards that were like all crazy in the late '80s? They've got some T-shirts that look like those cards and with your favorite players on them. And I assume that won't be Jason Tatum, but
oh, Celtics and Duke. Get out of here. Oh,
Duke.
E.
Who said Duke?
Jason Tatum.
Oh, that's right. He played for Duke. You're right.
Thank you.
Also, he's from St. Louis. So,
oh my gosh, Jason Tatum, the most unlikable athlete in the history of the world. Celtics, Duke, and from St. Louis. Are you kidding me?
There you go, the trifecta.
Oh my goodness. Seth, tell me about Kent Merker. Should we listen to it?
Was awesome. Pat Magooch, you mentioned golf earlier. Yeah, he was known to be quite the golfer. He lives at Muirfield Village here in Dublin, in Columbus, where Jack Nicklaus's tournament is. But you'll be surprised, as I was, to find out he's not playing golf anymore. And stay tuned. Check it out to find out what he's doing to get those competitive juices flowing. He's got something else going on.
Excellent. Go. No, Scott, I'm not coming to visit you in St. Louis. So go listen to Red Leg Roundtable. Always interesting. Some great guests so far, and I'm really excited to see all the great guests going forward. Listen to the Riverfront Reds show every Friday. That's posted in your feed, and as it has been since we started that show in 2007. That is crazy. Awesome. And of course, the Riverfront Bengal show, Riverfront U. Lots of fun stuff going on at the Riverfront. some new partnerships, and it's an exciting time to be involved with the Riverfront. Seth, man, I had a blast tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Me too, and everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate all the comments. It was so fun to be around you guys again, and look forward to hanging out even more. So thanks so much.
Well, thank you, Seth. And that's the other part, which is that I had a good time talking to you, Seth. But the fun about this Late Night Red show every week is just those of you that show up every week, that watch, that comment. It's a whole different vibe.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different vibe from what I'm used to, and that's why I love it every week. So thanks for joining us. Hey, for Seth Shaner and for Luis Alberto Bonilla, this is Chad Dotson saying, so long, everyone.